I was working in the nuclear French industry, doing neutron tensors, measurements of simulated Chernobyl experiment, and the French industry was reorganized. It was the big Sarkozy era with Areva. And the ITER project got announced a few years before. So I was interested in putting some time and some effort into a new type of energy, because the uranium branch is very polluting, usually. So I started to read about that, and I started to go through the recruitment process. And after reading a couple of books and starting to chat with people on the fusion side, I realized it was not a viable product. It would never really see any substantial energy coming out of that new fusion route. Which is a personal opinion, but I decided to switch gears and get in touch with other people on different subjects, and one of those subjects was called fusion. So I got to Jean-Paul, and the following week I was in his office, and we started to discuss, and that's how I got to cold fusion. Since I was already working in the nuclear engineering part and the physics of fusion reactors, especially tokamaks, was getting known on my side, increasing the density using the metal lattice to enhance fusion reactions just made sense to me. I was aware of the problems with the Coulomb barrier and so on. It's just that the scientific evidence was all over the papers. And it was in 2008. So it's been almost 20 years since the announcement was made. So the quantity of papers and the quantity of science showed in the papers was significant enough for me to pursue that route. And it was so, making things small is a good way to decentralize. And that's what one of the biggest arguments I had to convince me it was an interesting route to go. Centralization, especially in France, with the nuclear industry, we have a lot of power plants. Well, they make you need to build large facilities, you need to sustain a large economy behind it. And it sounds more logical to me when I discovered that field of cold fusion research. More people in the industry are getting attracted by research, but it's been quiet for more than 25 years. When I got into this field, there were absolutely no support by the government whatsoever. Jean-Paul was able to teach and keep his lab space, but it was mainly one of the 2 or 3 groups in France able to operate on their own money. No government money was invested in any way. Actually, what happened in France just after the announcement, France evaluated the possibility of opening a new research line for cold fusion research and experimentation. And the head of the nuclear agency, National Nuclear Agency, said if people want to work on cold fusion, they should do it in their garage. Which was basically telling everybody else, France is not going to make any effort in this field ever. Seeing how the nuclear industry was against this field, I decided with Jean-Paul, with Jacques Ruher, with Pierre Clozon to create the French Society, to have an entry for the public attention, especially for French-speaking people. So I created the association and organized the first conference with him. We were very surprised. We were expecting 25 people, 50 came up, and it was a very successful conference. It was in 16, yes. And we did another conference, and well, the momentum is getting higher as large companies, large French companies are getting interested. But they are expecting the breakthrough to come up before putting a substantial effort in research. It is too fundamental so far for them to justify large investments. It is the diversity of understanding, the diversity of experiments, the data that is pulled out of so many different groups. It doesn't make that easy. Everybody got to want different analysis and different setups, experimental setups, to in an attempt of making sense of the original understanding of the discovery. So we have the plasma people, we have the gas loading people, we have the electrolysis people. I mean, it's all about fighting the Coulomb barrier, right? Trying to poke it as much as possible, different ways to have enough clues about what's going on. But this holy miracles are making experimentalist life very hard. It's very difficult to get any funding. That is the main difference. We should establish some kind of a ratio or some kind of a compared to the quality of the scientists that are involved in the field to the quantity of money they receive. We would break any kind of research. I mean, it's been so difficult to pull out large experiments and replicate over and over again. I mean, only large laboratories were able to do that. National labs, mainly. Small groups, they cannot afford changing the entire cell 260 times. It is, I think, the main difference between a large funded research field compared to LANR cold fusion. The MFMP was created during ICCF 17 in South Korea on the impulsion of 6 youngsters, in the aim of large, wide audience publication of data results over the internet in a soft, real-time manner. All the technology was already available, already had this kind of broadcasting system, and all the machining and the tooling for that. So it was starting very quickly, very well. The philosophy was toward openness. And during the process of doing these experiments, we realized that we were creating a new way of doing science, which was blending open source software with, the values and the principle of open source softwares within science, adding the little live aspect for real-time observations and broadcasting of the data. That made it so exciting. I mean, running these experiments, that was really fun to do because we were 200 people watching these experiments all at the same time. And it was before, Google Hangout and all this, live streaming technology. It was 2012. Not so far ago, but the technology evolved so fast. Yeah, that was a very exciting time. So we did publications, we did the Indian journal publications, make sure that the cold fusion community as a whole would know that what we're doing, know the values we were bringing on. We were trying to do as best science that was possible with the hardware we had at hand. So it was a difficult task because everybody was following us. Anonymous contribution, money, time, analysis, data, programmers, all kind of different background, people with different background were participating in that project. And that was a great time. It really changed the way science was done. And it was a pioneering way. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work as well, but it's fine. I mean, we try. It's very hard for young people, especially when these elder people were chased out of universities, out of institutions for the most part. It's difficult for youngsters to come in and have someone that is not in a position to pay salaries. And it's all about that. When you are looking from the side of an investor, it's just logical to hire a very knowledgeable, even though he's old, he will be operative and he will bring good science into the field. So you don't actually need, you don't actually have the feeling that you need to hire a large quantity of young people to support that field. That can change. And that is, I think, changing at the moment. The contribution from Charles Baudet in the book Why Cold Fusion Research Prevails is giving you the entire answer to that question. It is too important. There is no other alternative at the moment that can cover all the wide usage of energy we have at the moment. It can solve all kind of nuclear waste problem. It can change our society. It can change our future. It can stop a lot of pollutions. And if infinite energy is behind the door, we should try as hard as possible to push that door. When we analyze on the medical aspect, the exposure to low-level radiation, to higher level of radiations, we realize that the human body is quite well prepared for this kind of exposure. It depends on the material that is used. It depends if it's contamination. It depends if it's radiation. It's a very tough question. I'm not sure I'm the right guy to have a say on that. I prefer to look at the medical analysis, and sometimes what I read doesn't cross what I saw. In the French nuclear industry, I had people almost retiring, and I can tell you they were burned just in the between of the two. I'd like to have things that are cleaner. Well, physics, if you want to have nuclear energy, I mean, if you want to have mega electron volts, if you want to have large production of energy, it's going to be difficult to not have any radiation out of it. We're working at the edge of condensed matter. It's one of the most exciting fields of research. And when we know about all the experiments that were done, I think it's the wide openness of that field that makes me willing to work on it. There's so many stuff to do in it. We always think about physics and science as very close to each other. Well, physics is nature and science is the interpretation by the human mind, right? To me, there is a wide gap between the two. We have absolutely no idea of how physics is large, though we pretend to know it all, which is far from the reality.